if there were serious concerns that we would either, let's say revoke the Phase 1 trade accord that was signed with China in December of last year, or if there were sanctions that would effectively cripple, cross-country trade, I think the market would be selling off a little bit more. So we may see, and this is hard to say, obviously, because it's a pure guess based on the impossibility of knowing what President Trump is thinking at any given time. If it were going to be, I think, if it were being anticipated that this was going to be a serious set of sanctions that really irreparably damages U.S.-China relations, we'd be down more. But having said that, we could still be surprised on the downside.
Jimmy, what about the banks in particular here? This keeps coming up as a concept that those with exposure could see sanctions or something of that sort. I mean, what might that look like?
Listen, I think sanctions on the banking. If I was going to create a list of sanctions from things that are extremely mild, and generally I would put sanctions on individuals, whether it's freezing someone's assets or preventing them from traveling or their kids can't go to Harvard. I would have that on one end. On the other end, I would put things like normalizing Taiwan, selling new weapons to Taiwan, or canceling that. If that's on the other end. Sanctions on banking, I think, are on the more serious end, and I think the president really wants to thread a needle here. He wants to show that he's serious, especially because Joe Biden's going to try to be serious and out-hawk him, but at the same time, he doesn't have to rattle the markets. And I think really, anytime you start getting in banking and financial institutions, I think that's on the more serious side of potential actions taken by the president.
Yeah, well said. And we're waiting the president any moment now to make this announcement. Ron, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I think just generally speaking, Kelly, given the fragility of the economic rebound here in the United States, and it may be in some instances going better than expected. I mean, I think the timing of this is ill-considered. I think we need to be in a slightly stronger position to deal more forthrightly with China. Not that I personally approve of anything that's going on over there, nor am I, a fan of that regime. But I think, the strategic importance of this doesn't need to be a knee-jerk response. It really needs to be well thought out, done in conjunction with our allies to create more global pressure on China to become a good actor rather than a bad actor, as Larry Kudlow described China this morning. And so I think this unilateralism will not help us in the end, and we need more global firepower to get China to comply with international law and to, in many ways, also comply with international trade law on a more serious basis than it has in the past.
To Ron's point, Jimmy, I mean, is a possibility of any action backfiring actually limited simply because we are going into election year and we don't want to, or President Trump doesn't want to inflict the same damage that was inflicted during the negotiations for Phase 1?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the tricky part. Again, the president wants to be taken seriously. He doesn't want to rattle the markets. But he also has this other guy out there, Joe Biden, who's already made it very clear, and his staff has made clear, that they intend to be tough on China. I think the president's talked a good game, but hasn't followed through. So Biden is going to be tough. And again, as I said earlier, the president does not want to be out-hawked by Joe Biden. So I can easily see this as a year of escalating tensions driven by the election.